Hey everyone, welcome to the world of technology loves. We had a great webinar and I did something, who knows what, to the recording. So I am going to represent and do the best I can to recreate what we did in our webinar today. So hang on, here we go. Welcome to the webinar, Engaging Students in Online Learning. So this webinar was put together based on all of the incredible collaboration and conversations that have been happening during the launch of our new course, Online Language and Literacy Development for English Learners. That course launched on July 22nd, and we've had a few weeks of class time. We have over 250 participants in the course right now, and we've had just such amazing conversations. Certain ideas have come out to really spark interest in participants and get conversation going. We have a weekly live collaboration call on Zoom for those who want to join, which have led to even more great conversations. So we just wanted to take a pause here at English Learner Portal and share with you some of the big ideas that keep coming back as most valuable to our groups so that you have the same information moving forward with your planning for the fall. So we broke it down into a list of tips that we're going to work through together. Before we get into that, this is me, Kelly Ryder. As I said in the live version, this is me on a day that's not August humidity in Maryland. So that's the straight hair version. Here's the curly haired humidity version. And we'll talk later about how you just get yourself on the video. Nobody cares what your hair looks like today. Okay. So now we're at almost 26, 27 years of public school experience. I started as an ESL teacher in a very high ESL population elementary school in Maryland, moved into a classroom teacher position in that same school as one became available, so I could have my same group all the time and get a little possessive. Later through my career, I went back and forth between classroom teacher and ESL teacher a few times. Moved into the role of professional development specialist, where I worked with doing workshops and trainings and both the use of instructional technology and around English language learners over the years. Created our first online course in 2005, can you imagine? And it was about teaching English learners. I think it's still alive out there somewhere. And then from there moved into the administration track, thinking that's just, the natural pathway where I'm going to go next. And I became an elementary assistant principal in two different elementary schools, one being a very high ESOL population school, the other one more of a moderate population, so lots of growth and challenges there. From there, I took a spin back into the classroom, changed states, went to North Carolina, worked in a high school newcomer center there. It was my first teaching experience in high school and middle school, and I loved it. So I was so glad I took that little side trip. Came back to Maryland after I missed my family and became the ESL district level coordinator for Anne Arundel County Public Schools in the Annapolis area of Maryland, where we grew from about 2,500 students to close to 7,000 in that 6 years in the program. So all of the things that come with that, all of the federal accountability, the curriculum development, professional development to build the expertise of our ESL team, also professional development to our content team, our curriculum writing teams, our teachers and administrators. You name it, we would talk to anybody who would get in the room with us or get online with us. So I'm excited that we have a chance to share some of these lessons learned with you. And no matter how much experience you have or how comfortable you are, these past couple months have sure put us all to the test to see how creative and flexible we can be. And I will say it many times over during this. You know what to do. We just have to shift the format and make a few tweaks. But we're good teachers. Good teachers know what to do, and you are doing the best you can, and we're going to make this work, and that's all anyone can ask of you. And we're going to help you make sure you feel comfortable and confident and ready. So after that spin in the district office, I was feeling like it had grown so much, it had become very administration heavy, and I love being with students and teachers. So I decided to take a little break from district level leadership and get back into professional development, where we started English Learner Portal. I worked with the WIDA Consortium as a certified trainer for them for the past 5 years, and just recently decided to stop doing the WIDA workshops and focus just on English Learner Portal. But they are still, my source of great information and research, and my friends and my colleagues that we lean on to keep us up to date all the time. So there's my background. We're going to share best practices for engaging your English learners and all students, because we know academic language is something all of our students need more work on. And especially in a new teaching format, we really need to work on those communication skills, because we're so limited in face-to-face right now. So we are building that academic language and communication for everyone. And again, what I care most about, I care about the students learning. I'll say that's number one. My second thing that I would care most about is that you feel good about what you're doing, that your confidence is in place, and that your students' confidence is in place. So let's hope we can help you get a little bit more of that in your tool belt and ready to roll for this fall. So we talked about how people are feeling and what they're thinking, and in the chat box, in the initial presentation, all of this was confirmed, that folks are feeling nervous about back to school. Whether you're going back to school face-to-face, or you're going back to school hybrid, or you're going back to school completely online, there is a piece of that that is challenging and difficult, and especially when we're juggling our own families and our household needs at the same time of juggling a major change in our job. Large life changes are stressful. It is understandable. So you are not alone in that. But reaching out for assistance and opening your mind to ideas of others is going to be crucial to surviving this. This is one thing that I love about the English Learner Portal community, is that everyone is so willing to share ideas, to share resources, to get on a live call or webinar and brainstorm together. So I hope, if this is your first experience with an English Learner Portal presentation, that you will also come to see the value of the collaboration of this community. I know some of the names I've seen in the chat box are names that I see in so many things that we've done in our courses, in our live calls, in our different webinars. So it's so great to see those names popping up again. It's almost like being in person. So we feel like there's so many pieces of technology out there that we don't know yet, and that causes us some stress. And I was feeling that recently too. So we'll talk about all those overwhelming technology options, and like how just to keep that language and content growing, and how our roles are shifting and what we should do about that. So if you're feeling that, welcome to the club. We're all there. We are all in the same place. So let's share our ideas. I'll share mine today. I look forward to hearing yours as we move forward. So we did share our thoughts and comments. And what I shared as kind of my concern is, when you really love teaching and you love being with your students, I feel like this picture that was on our website really sums it down to everything I've learned over the past 26, 27 years is now this flat image of me on a screen trying to teach someone. When you think about all the dynamics in your classroom, This particular scene kind of broke my heart at first. I honestly, personally was ready to cry when schools here announced that we were going back all online through the first semester. I was devastated because the students and my colleagues give me as much as I give to them, and reducing everything we do to a flat screen was heartbreaking. But I have since come to learn in all this collaboration with everyone that I have always valued online learning, which is why we started online courses in ELP years ago. And I just needed to embrace that again. Change is hard, so reset my mind, embrace all the things that we know are good for students, and we can do this in a flat screen environment. And we're going to hold each other's hands as we do that. So just know you're not alone if you were feeling that way as well. Again, what I am pulling from are some of the big ideas from our recently launched 5-hour mini course, Online Language and Literacy Development for English Learners. This course came up because so many people were reaching out for help in the spring when we went online suddenly. And we scrambled to gather as many best practices as we could come up with. And again, our community is so giving and collaborative that the course contains a collection of speakers. There are segments presented by me, giving some perspective, but I will never pretend to know everything and how to solve all the problems. So I reached out to all of our colleagues and said, hey, do you want to contribute? And we have a great collection of strategies and ideas that work for all students, but are especially targeted toward making sure that our English learners aren't left behind. There's a lot of concern about equity in all of this. So we're pulling some key ideas from this course to share with you today, and some key ideas that have come up in all of the collaborative conversations, the online comments, the live calls, all of the interaction that's happening. We're going to boil that down to a few points to share with you today. So as I talked about in the course, we're getting so much just overwhelming amount of comments and feedback, and everyone telling us what pieces really stood out to them. So this is how we decided what to boil down into the webinar today. Teachers have been very open about, this particular segment really worked for me. Thank you for giving me a big variety. Some of the unknown seems a little more clear now. So we hope to do that for you today as well. So the first tip that I want to share, I know it says teaching tip 4. We use these images for an email sequence, so it's not going in that. It's going in the order, I think, rather than the order we originally created. So the idea of reducing the amount of toggling. So what I mean by that is what I noticed when we first started working online with students in the spring is that the easiest and fastest way to put things together was to put your documents into your online format, whether it's Google Classroom, Schoology, Canvas, Blackboard, whatever it is, as a series of links and documents for students to open this link that has your assignment, open this link has your worksheet, open this link is a video to support that. And what I noticed, especially with the beginning English learners, was they were really getting lost in that. And they could find the first document, but some of them were working on phones, and some of them were working on Chromebooks with little screens. Some of them are working on iPads. And so the idea of toggling between documents and between tabs in the internet browser got to be a bit overwhelming at times, even for me trying to support them in their content classrooms of how many different documents are we referring to. That's hard in person, and it was extremely hard online. So we're going to share some ideas today of how you can reduce the number of documents or files you have your students opening and closing, and try to streamline some of that presentation so that they have one place to go, one place to look that will take them to wherever you need them to go with a limited amount of scavenger hunting or, looking and figuring out. So that's what we're going for here. Okay, moving on. Here's an example of what I mean by minimizing the toggling. This screen here, I created this in Google Slides. You could do the same in PowerPoint or any other. You could do it in a Google Doc or a Word doc, anything that you can hyperlink. So on the surface, it looks very simple to follow. Behind the scenes are all those links to different places you want students to go because those resources are valuable. But up front, I want it to be as simple and straightforward as possible. So my students, regardless of their English proficiency level, with a little help from directions, can figure out that there are 5 things that I want them to do in regards to this book, Wings. And I'm going to use this template as an example for a lot of the points I'm going to make today. So if you go to the website here on the screen, you can download the template as well, and we'll also include it in the sharing of the video after the webinar. You'll get the template one way or another. But this is how we set up that there are 5 activities that the students are going to do around this read aloud, and this is the very simple splash screen for them to go to. They know 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They know what order to go in, and it will open it up for them. And I'll show you as we work through today how that all comes together. So again, simplified first view with pretty clear expectations without a lot of words is really what we want to have happen for our English learners. From there, we take our templates like that, and we really want to personalize our lessons with video. So I can tell you a few things that I've done with video that seem to be helping. You can use apps, programs like Zoom to record something just like this, but you're talking to yourself or pretending you're talking to your students, and record and share without a lot of technology knowledge. You can make that work. There's another program called Loom, L-O-O-M, that lets you record and share recordings with pretty simple interface that doesn't take a lot of video editing knowledge to work. Other things that was mentioned in the chat box, like Screencastify, Screencast-O-Matic, are other apps that we use to record your screen and record your face and your voice. I know we get shy about getting on camera. It took me a long time to get over the idea of doing videos for professional development. I don't mind being face-to-face with everyone. I love that. I didn't love getting on video to create all these online resources. But I had to get that out of my head because honestly, what you have to share with students is more important than how your hair looks today, or if your makeup is on point, or what you're wearing, because really you can only see me from here up. So, and I already told you it's a frizzy, curly, humid day in Maryland, so you get what you get. So you have to let that go. Your students want to see you. Like, they don't care if you're having a bad hair day. Like, we all have that student who's going to comment on something, right? But we're not going to let that stop us. Our goal is to communicate and build relationships. And by seeing your face and watching your lips move, watching your gestures, holding up whatever it is you need to hold up, that video is going to be invaluable. So try your best to let go of your shyness and your inhibitions and just do it. Just make those videos for your students. So like in that read aloud lesson, I start with a video for them talking about the directions and what they're going to do. And I'll show you how that all fits into the template in just a minute. Another way that video has really helped, it took us a while to figure out. We were making all of these videos and putting them on YouTube and linking them in our our online classroom, but we still have a number of students who have connectivity issues, who don't have internet access on a regular basis. And so all the video we were creating was not helping the students who probably needed the most help. So it hit one day that we can do the same format, we can use the same templates, use the hyperlinks as we can show everybody pretty quickly to learn how to do some hyperlinks. And in addition to posting all of this online, we also put them on flash drives. Put all of that onto a flash drive that the student can plug in to their Chromebook or whatever device the school systems are now coming out with for students, which is helping a lot to get folks off their phone and onto a real device. Plug in the USB, and the students can run all of the lessons from there. Now you might send it in the mail, you might have a pickup at the school where you pick up your materials, you might drop it off at homes if you are making home visits with, safe distancing and precautions. So a lot of ways you can do that, still use that video with a group who may not be able to participate live. We can find ways to get them the video. So think about some of those. And this is a great quote from one of our teachers in the course of, as the school year gets closer and we keep thinking about it, as you go through all of the information, every time you hear a new presentation or you look at it into a course or a webinar, you look at it a little differently because it's a learning curve. And each time you take another pass through, you can watch this video again 2 weeks from now and you'll hear something else that clicks. So just stay open and think about that power of video. What I love about the video also is that even if you're face-to-face to start the year, if you create video to support everything you're doing, you'll always have it. Right? And if for whatever reason things flip and you end up in a hybrid model or online, you'll be ready. If you know you're starting in a hybrid model or online, you're building all of this now. When the time comes that we go back into school face-to-face, think of all the pre-made centers, stations, independent activities you have where students can just open that file and go through your read-aloud sequence without you, and it will be beautiful independent work. So don't think about it as more and extra and so time consuming. Let's think about how to streamline it and then how to use it for multiple purposes going forward so that everything you do can be used over and over again. That's the best part about the technology, repurposing. So here's an example of one way that I used video in the read aloud. So that you can never screen capture yourself with a normal face. So like I said, all shame out the window. When you go on video, you just know you're going to make faces. So with this particular read aloud sequence, you have many options when you do read alouds. You can go to the author's website, and a lot of authors are now posting videos of them reading their books aloud, and it's really cool sometimes for the students to hear the author read their own work, and you can talk about how that feels as an author, because we want our students to be authors. You may find times where it's just important for them to know you and see you and hear your voice and hear your expression and get to know your sense of humor and what your little anecdotes, all of those things are so important. And so video helps us bridge that gap, that if I was sitting in front of a class doing a read aloud, they'll get your personality. And so just take that, 5-10 minutes and do that read aloud yourself and use that as an opportunity to just build familiarity. And hopefully your students then can later, as you learn more pieces of technology or learn more ways to share, we now have students who are doing their own read alouds, whether it's to a pet or stuffed animal or a brother or sister. We have high schoolers who we have recording read alouds, which is great practice for them. But then we can also use those give to our colleagues to use with younger students. So the value of a video read aloud can stretch forever. Parents will be listening. Parents will be learning English from your videos as well. Parents will be watching you and your teachable moments so they know what to do when they read with their children. So many purposes served. It's worth the time to make it happen. And again, I made this video on Zoom, just turned on Zoom, put it on record. I remembered to hit record that day, and held up the book and said, here we go. Is it the best to read aloud with being able to see all the pictures? Not necessarily, but it's me connecting with my students. For this read aloud, I also put in a link where we have someone else reading the same story. So the first time I read it all the way through, and I started in the beginnings when I would do a read aloud, I would jump right in and I have all these teachable moments and things I want to point out, and questions I want to ask, and comprehension strategies. And the students at some point were saying, can't we just hear the story? Like, why do you always have to ask questions? I just want to know what happens. And so I started the practice, which then later I found is researched and there's articles about and suggested, that I start the first time with a straight read through. Just enjoy the story. I only stop if there's a question or clarification. Now, when you record one ahead of time, it's hard to know that there's a question or clarification, which you can kind of anticipate. But just read it. Just read it and enjoy it and let them see your reaction. For the second read through on the next activity, then I go into more stop and pause and, the think alouds and pointing out whatever it is that I want to point out to meet the standards we're working on. For this particular book, Wings, there is a teacher who records read alouds on YouTube and posts them for the world. Ms. Kai is Woke Kindergarten, W-O-K-E, Woke Kindergarten. So she does the texts that are appropriate for kindergartners. But you can, even if you have older students, she's really cool and she has a great way of doing read alouds and she works in all of those teachable moments. And so because she's great and my students should benefit from hearing other people besides me, I also include her video. So for those students who are online, I can link right to YouTube and they can listen to Ms. Kai read the story. For those students, again, who aren't online, I was able to download that video and include it on the flash drive credits so they know exactly who she is, where her YouTube channel is, and that she gets all the credit for that activity. But it's good. Like, this technology is giving us a variety of presenters, a variety of ways to represent information, to explain things that we may not have tapped into before because we were just really focused in our four walls. So there's an example of video helping the relationship building and the literacy development as well. And again, if you're recording, think of all the read aloud center or station types of activities. You have a whole library of read alouds that students can use for listening practice, that can be, that few minutes before you go to lunch. So many things you can do with those videos once you have them. Our next tip is thinking about how to most simplify the directions for easier processing. Now, we try to do this in the classroom anyway when we're face-to-face because simplifying directions and getting students to know what to do is our goal all day, every day. I find that online I have to put a lot more attention here because it's so easy to lose students. It's easy to lose them in the clicking and opening and closing, and it's easy to lose them in the process because we do so much support of that when we're face-to-face that we don't even realize we're doing. So in simplifying the directions, when we're talking about English proficiency levels, when we're teaching, I always work with teachers in learning how to teach up. So if I'm an intermediate English proficiency level student, we work a lot on helping students set goals to teach a level or two up so we can keep pushing that proficiency level up. What I suggest for directions is you go the opposite way. So wherever your students are in proficiency level, when you do directions, you drop back some. So your intermediate English proficiency students can understand some compound complex sentences, some technical vocabulary, those kinds of things. For directions, go back. Simple sentences, clear and concise, visual supports, number the steps. There's 5 things you need to do. Include a video that reiterates for the 3rd or 4th time, there are 5 things you need to do. Break that down. On this screen, there's 1 thing you need to do. We'll talk about the other 4 on other screens. Make it as simple as possible so that the brain waves, the brain power is being used on your content and not on following complicated directions. I've learned that my older English learners, and also true for younger, shut down when there's a page full of text. They're just like, can't do it before they even try. So breaking it down and lots of visual support, you'll see a difference. And I'll show you a little bit more about what I mean by that. So here's activity 1 from that WINGS presentation. So if you remember that first splash screen, it just had this TV icon, and it had the book, the icon of the book cover, and it said 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And that's, my students know you are going to do 5 things with this book. They click on the 1 because that, again, there were no words, they know. You go to activity 1. So with my students being intermediate, I then bump my directions down to very simple sentences. I have 1 link where they can open the Google Doc, and that's where they're going to do their work. It would be equivalent to the worksheet, or I have some sequencing in there, pictures, some kind of drag and drop, like fill in the box, draw a picture. Like there's a lot of different ways you can go with it, but everything I want them to respond to can go to a Google Doc. If they're working offline, remember those links still work as long as you put the document on the drive also, so they can open it from there. They can save it, and a lot of my students will take a picture of their work and text it to me. Some have access, and once a week or so we'll connect online wherever they need to go and send a pile of information that they've been working on. Whatever works. You just take it how you get it. Some students are more comfortable than others. Within Google Slides, Google Docs, all of that, there is a text-to-speech tool. So you can have your students dictate their answers in the Google Doc. So even if they are beginning English speakers, they can click the button and record. So in a future session or blog, I'll go through step by step what that looks like. But check that out if you haven't yet. It's one of the menu features. Comes in so handy that if you just want a quick answer and you don't want it to turn into a whole writing experience, let them use the text-to-speech tool, record in the document. You have their evidence and done, like simulated speaking experience. Like I said, with video, I put on this TV icon, if they click, you can see it goes to a link for YouTube on here, the online version. And this is a short video of me, maybe a minute and a half, where I just say, okay, activity 1, this is before reading. And here I do all of those things that I would do in person. I emphasize certain words. I repeat myself 1,000,000 times. I use my hand gestures. You will listen to the story Wings. I hold up the book. All of those things to help make the directions more clear. And I've done it through video. It's just like I would do in class. There's 1 video, 1 set of directions. When they're finished, they have a home button that takes them back to that initial screen that said 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we're not toggling between a bunch of different documents. We're not going back in folder to open a new thing. We're staying right in this Google slide or PowerPoint presentation. So there's some structures that can help you get organized with the flow. Now, this read aloud sequence is a good example of what I mean by using sequencing to help build discourse. So you want to build the conversation around your content. You want students to really be focused on processing the content, talking about the content, and in order to get there, you need to make the most of your instructional time so they can get the content and get right into the discourse part, right into processing and talking about it. And so lesson sequences or routines, protocols, call it any of those, they're all about the same. Those lesson sequences, if they are very predictable, will help students to spend more time focused on your content and less time focused on directions. So in that read aloud sequence is a great example. I'll use that same template over and over. I might change up the colors now and then, make it a little different. I take off the book cover, put on a new book cover. I might change to another video icon every once in a while, but I could leave it just like it is and change the book. On each slide, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I always keep it to 5 lessons about that book. Sometimes it takes a little creativity to make it into 5, depending on what I want to do. But I always keep it at 5 because they know we always start with a straight read through. That's always 1. They know they get a second read through in activity 2. They know then that the next 3 activities are them doing something with the content and ideas from the text. And that's where I change it up based on the standards we're working on. But I use the same navigation, the same screen format. They know where to click. They know how to find their Google Doc. They know to click for video directions. They don't have to look around for it. While it may feel redundant and repetitive, your students and their parents are going to appreciate that because it just, like we've been saying, it takes the stress load down. I know how to do read aloud lessons with Miss Ryder. I got the screen, I got it. They don't have to think about all that. Their attention, their focus, their energy goes to your content and your instruction. And that's what we want to do as much as possible. So very predictable lesson sequences. Every time you introduce new vocabulary, use the same template and sequences. Every time you work through math problems, problem solving, use the same sequence. Really think about how you can build this one resource and then use it multiple ways so that students aren't guessing and they're not overthinking. That processing of directions is exhausting for class after class, subject after subject, teacher after teacher, before they even get to content. Protocols, sequences, routines, the more you build those in, the less work for you because you're not recreating the wheel on every lesson. And the more time they focus on content. So here's an example of another kind of lesson sequence that is included in one of the courses. We do what's called whole-to-part lessons, and it's very much a very routine-focused development of language and literacy with embedded content. So we have to pick a topic for one of our content areas. We might be writing about math, reading and writing about math. It might be a science topic. It might be a social studies topic. It might be about the text. It might be about wings that we just read. You can use it for whatever context, but we go through the same flow every time. We start with an image. We use that image to generate our vocabulary and background knowledge. What do you know about this? How is this connected to what we're doing? What do you see? We use strategies like I see, I think, I wonder. What do you see? And all of the vocabulary comes out. What do you think is happening? What do you think, is this the beginning, the middle, the end? What do you think happens next? What do you think happened before this? What do you think right? So getting all that background knowledge going. What do you wonder? What questions do you have? Then we move into taking all of that brainstorming and starting to use it to build our sentence frames or our sentence starters that we want students to use to discuss and write about the content. No secrets. If I'm working on getting you to build more complex sentences, then we're building those kinds of frames together around this image so we can model and practice. So when I set you free in lesson 5, you know that everything we're building in lesson 1, 2, 3, 4 is going to show up in 5. So on day 2, you're going to use the words from day 1 to make sentences. On day 3, you're going to use the words and sentences to build something new. And each time it builds up. And it's very predictable. They know where you're going. And you'd be amazed at how the level of thinking and conversation really go up because they're not worried about what the next step is or what you're going to ask because they already know where you're going. So they can focus on developing the thinking and the communication and not worrying so much about where is she going with this because they already know by the time you've done it 2 or 3 times. You change up the images, you change up the process. And in the course, we go into some examples if you want more information on that. But that type of sequence, that kind of protocol, routine, very, very powerful and makes your online planning so much easier. You sit down and plan for a little while. You have 5 days done in no time because you already know day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4, day 5. This is what we're doing. Switch, new concept, day 1, day 2, day 3. You knock your plans out and you have a peaceful week. So think about it. Try it out with some different routines and protocols. As part of that, I started to allude to, but I wanted to wait for this slide, is modeling the desired outcome. So while we're working through, especially in a whole part lesson, but in any of those, even in the read aloud sequence, as I'm rolling through each step, I'm back mapping from that final outcome. So if in the end I want the students to write a little bit about, like select a character from the book Wings, tell me a character trait that for that character, and then justify it with evidence from the text. Pretty typical lesson sequence there. So in the end, in their justification, I want to hear good adjectives, character traits, like descriptive language. I want them to be able to tell me what the character said or did because they're justifying. So if you think that character is friendly, then how do you know? What did they say? What did they do? What was in the text? Those are all the things I want in their final paragraph where they justify on their own. To get there, I'm going to start on day 1. So my brainstorm might be around the character traits themselves, like all the different adjectives. Then as I move into my sentences, I might start with the frames, I know he or she, or put a name, is blank because. I know we're going to use that in our final writing, so I'm going to bring it in on day 2. I know he is friendly because he said blank, or he, and then an action. How do you write that? We'll come up with lots of examples of those kinds of structures. What structures, what sentences, what vocabulary do I want in the end? And we're building those into all of our models. By day 4, day 3, day 4, we start building out a model paragraph. We're talking about a character from another story or from a video or from the classroom because they're full of characters. Pick one of your characters in your class. Pick yourself, pick your dog, whatever it is. You're modeling and you're using that same vocabulary, same structures. Right? Repeat, repeat, repeat. No surprises. By day 5, you will be amazed at how they can take all of that and put it together and come up with their own writing, which then becomes reading. They're reading your model, they're reading their model, they're reading each other's models, and they're reading above their natural independent reading level because they've had so much support getting there. So that modeling not only, modeling in anything is extremely crucial with English learners because you need to have the visual, you need to be showing and modeling with the oral language where you're describing, and then any kind of pictures or visual support. We always talk about the rule of 3 in our workshop. So have 3 ways that students are understanding what you're teaching, and it will go better. So that model isn't just one you show them, but it's one you build piece by piece together. We use it for then reading and writing, as I said, in their model text to jump off of. Once you do that lesson sequence a number of times, they know where you're going. So from day 1, when you start talking about vocabulary, they know they're going to be using it. So they're already thinking about where's she going with this and how are we going to put it together. When you get to building sentences around the topic, they know they're going to be using them. So they get more creative. They put more thought into it. And as you move forward, you'll see the level of thinking and interaction change. I promise you. If you follow that same sequence and model strong, it feels redundant and tough at first, but it will pay off in their independent work. And remember, you're the model, you're the guide, you're not feeding them all of the information. You're not doing all the work while they watch. When you're building these models, you're taking their input, you're tweaking it to make it turn out the way you want, but it was all their idea. And you go through all of that. So we have lots of examples of that we can share with you through the courses and through our blogs. So go back to our website under free training. You'll see free resources and sharing. We have a number of blogs that talk about protocols and sequences that you can look at as well. Right, so back to all of these are things that really stood out to teachers as they were taking the Online Language and Literacy Development for English Learners course. And because we had so much input for ideas that folks wanted to share in that course that it was becoming more than 5 hours, we cut it off and then moved more content into part 2, which is delving deeper. So delving deeper is very similar to Online Language and Literacy, just more strategies, more examples, more templates. Each course is 5 hours of video content with links to explore, sometimes articles, if you're into wanting to read the research or learning more about a particular topic, or if the presenter has other information that wasn't included, we have links to all of that. So 5 hours solid of tips and ideas for you, but you could spend a lot more time. We did have an email from someone who says, you told me 5 hours, but I spent all day in there exploring and digging. And that's what I want for you, a huge bank of resources. So our next round, we will open Course 1, Online Language and Literacy, again on August 22nd. So if you missed it the first time, you can jump in now. And delving deeper, you can take them both at the same time. If you've already had Online Language and Literacy, then now is the time to jump into delving deeper. What I want to make sure you know is that I know August 22nd is the beginning of the school year for many, many, many of us. And even for those who have delayed openings, you're still going to be, up to here and planning and preparing. So just know that we have made this as practical as possible. So any minute you spend inside those courses, you hopefully will then turn around and use those templates in your planning to help take some stress off of you. If you're not there yet, then jump in because you have access to these courses for the entire school year. So if you just want to peek in, get an idea what's there, come back to it next week, come back to it next month. It will be there for you when you are ready. And like anything, come in and get a few ideas, try them out, practice, come back, get the next one when you're ready. Your pace, your comfort level, and remember, you're not trying to master every technology out there. You don't have to have a Bitmoji and a Google Classroom and virtual classroom and all of these other pieces because someone else is. You do what makes you a good teacher online, right? You do you. Be comfortable where you are. Be confident in what you're presenting. Know that you're doing the right things. If you're not sure, reach out. You have my email. You have the access to my team. If it's not me who's connecting or communicating, you have hundreds of people who are currently in the course. You have hundreds of people who signed up for this webinar. We have a great community of people always willing to help. I'm going to share the chat box from the webinar so that you have all the ideas that were brainstormed there. We have a wealth of support, and never hesitate to reach out because we're all figuring this out for the first time. You know, we have the advantage of having been working online with teachers for years, but the technology changes so quick that, you know, we're always struggling to keep up too. So you make us better, we'll help make you better, we'll help bring the stress level down. You know, let's do that for each other. After taking the courses, you are given a certificate of completion. You just have to go through all of the content, fill out an evaluation, and submit a quick, like, one paragraph, one page reflection on what stood out to you and how you might use it. You'll get the certificate for 5 hours that if you need to turn into your district for continuing education or just keep in your portfolio for future interviews, you'll have your certificate. And we're also doing our digital credentialing where we're earning badges. So you'll get an electronic badge, and we have a program in place that I'll tell you more about another time where you can accumulate badges and earn achievement levels towards becoming an expert in English language development or refreshing your expertise if you already are. So just some notes from different folks from the course. What matters to me are those comments like tremendous value and energy and different presenters from different parts of the country who are in different roles with new twists on old ideas, and nothing so strange from what you're doing that you couldn't see possibilities in it. So let us help you. We are here for you. Reach out, and I hope that those who have worked with us for a while will back me up on that. We answer our emails. We try to brainstorm with you. We connect you with others who can, are similar backgrounds, similar content areas. If you're interested in either one of those courses, here's the link to enroll. You'll also find it on the website under mini trainings. You'll see a web page there. Here's my email address. Use it anytime. And again, like, we're all at different levels of expertise here. So if you did something in the spring, or you're planning something really cool that you learned about or you want to try for the fall, and you're willing to put a little video like this together, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, where you explain your idea, share some slides, share a template. If you are ready to take that leap and be a leader, let me know, because we definitely have some space in our course 3, and we always have something going on. We might get you to share it in a blog or let it be part of a course. We will find a way to let you share your expertise, because we are really focused on building leaders too. So if you feel confident, jump in and help everyone else, and we'll help facilitate that for you. If you need support, reach out and find us. Thank you so much for joining us today. I hope you had some ideas confirmed as you're on the right track. I hope that just the understanding that you have a community behind you and you just do what you know is the right thing to do by students, and we'll find a way to make it work online. So have a great evening. I hope you feel a little bit better about everything, and if you ever need an encouraging word, let us know. We're here for you. Take care, and thank you again for joining us.